Hi everyone, I'm Shelley and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. This week's Question the Narrative video is going to be an investigation of his story. Not history, but his story. The story that we are told by the controllers of what happened in the past. And this investigation is going to be more of a boots on the ground sort of investigation, viewing things with our eyes rather than doing research online, which I do other times as well. I spent some time in Allentown, Pennsylvania, just a few days ago, and I took some photos. Now, some of them are from a couple months ago, but I've been taking pictures of some things that I find very interesting there. And I also have some pictures that someone sent me from Japan, some very interesting pictures. If you look at the old world style architecture that they have there, architecture that looks like it belongs in Europe, and also some photos from Traverse City Hospital. And these are really the sorts of investigation that we all need to start doing. Just start walking around your own town and start taking photos and thinking to yourself, why did they build things this way? Why do so many of these buildings worldwide look the same? Why are there so many buried windows and buried doorways? And we may never know the answer at any point in the near future, but it's important to be asking questions and to realizing that things aren't what they seem. So anyway, so this is a middle school in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It's Robb Middle School. Now we are told that this was built in 1923. So I don't know if it was erected from the ground up in 1923 or if it was renovating a different building. I can't seem to find any construction photos of it. Maybe I just didn't look well enough. But, I grew up in this city. And while I never went to this school, I always thought that this school reminded me of a castle. And it really does, especially if you look up here. We've got these copper domes up here. And I always thought, I don't know, some of it just had a spire effect to me. And here's a close-up of these spires. And it just fits right in with the Antiquitech, with the octagonal shape of the dome, the copper, and then what looks like it could be Antiquitech up there, maybe not. And again, we've just got these castle features going on this school. And this school really reminds me of this one. This is Reading High School, also in Pennsylvania. And as you can see, this one also really looks like a castle. And you always have to think to yourself, why do all these schools look like castles? And not only schools, why do prisons often look like castles? This is in Philadelphia. And well, it's not anymore. It once was. It was once Moyamensing Prison. And this looks very much like a prison. And here we also have Eastern State Penitentiary, which also looks like a prison. And I always make the comparison of schools to prisons, and I just find it funny, or if not a little eerie, that they are both shaped almost the same way, like castles. So anyway, this is a Ukrainian Orthodox church in Allentown, and I wasn't able to get out to take a picture of this. I actually asked my daughter as we were driving past to take a photo of this one because I always thought this was absolutely beautiful. And again, we do have the ornate, what you might call Antiquitech, and we have the copper dome. Now, this one was also said to have been built in the early 1900s. That's a little bit closer. And this does look like one of those, are they called cymatic windows? But again, it is built, it was said to have been built at a later time period than what a lot of these old churches used to be. I actually was able to pull up some history of this church. There's a timeline right here, St. Mary Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And what we are told is that on January 28th, land was purchased in 1911. And then in 1912, they purchased additional land. And let's see. And in 1916, the construction of this church was started. So 1916, and then in 1917, the dedication ceremonies are held. So we are told that this church was built in 1916. So I'm thinking that it is possible that a lot of these churches and other buildings in general really did take on the style that they knew, especially if it was immigrants coming over here. They may have very well have styled this after what their churches look like over in Europe. You're probably thinking, what is this? Well, this is actually the entrance to, I believe it's a store in Allentown, and you have to go up the steps to get inside. And this is a common feature in downtown Allentown. This is actually right next to that entrance that you have to go up the steps. This is a door that may very well have been the original door. And there are hundreds of buildings around Allentown built in this manner, and I was able to get a pretty good sampling of that as I was walking along on Hamilton Street. So here we see this is now what they would consider to be the front door, and you can see obviously that you would have to go up steps to get there, and going down the steps here to get into what I think was the original entrance. Here we see some more of that. This doesn't have anything to do with that. I just took a picture of this because I thought that this was really neat. Now here we see the basement entrance right next to a window, and then right next to what would now be the front door. I believe that these are the steps going up there to get inside there. Common feature here. Another one, go down the steps to get in this door, but there is another window right here, and here's a window too. And if you actually take a look at this window, what it looks to me is that there was a window this size also down here at one point, because as you can see from the tops of the windows, this is shaped exactly the same. It's the same width. It's directly underneath it. So what I'm thinking is that there was a window that went all the way down here as well, because this was the first floor. And now what we have instead is a basement. Another one, going down the steps, a street level window right here, going up the steps into the front door. And this would have been a very odd way to build in that time period, making things much harder than it had to be. So here, this is just the cornerstone of a church it was built in 1904. And I was able to take some pictures of that. I believe this is called Christ Lutheran Church. And this is just really this also has the castle appearance, as you can see. And there are so many beautiful churches in Allentown. And I just really wanted to show what this one looked like here. We always have that castle vibe going on, though. There are other churches that are very close by to this one that I wasn't able to get to on this trip, but I will in the future, and you'll see they also look like castles as well. This also looks very much like Antiquitech, but again, 1904, so I don't know. As you can see over here, there are what many people will call mudflood windows. You can see that they are right here, all along the side. Would have been, I don't know, to me, a strange way to build the foundation of a church. Just some more views of that. Close-up of those mudflood windows that I had taken. This actually looks like it's part of the church, but it's actually a building behind the church. But as you can see, this also is fashioned like a castle. So that's why I took a picture of that one as well. Now these are at Lehigh Parkway in Allentown. It's a park system that I always used to frequent when we lived there. And I actually went there the other day. I got some footage. I wanted to make a question the narrative video specifically about Lehigh Parkway because of what we are told are fake ruins there that were supposedly built by the WPA that I'm very suspicious of. It was way too hot though. It was probably like, it felt like 100 degrees that day. It was steaming hot, so I wasn't able to get enough footage to make a video, but I did have a couple photos that I just wanted to share until I get that video out. And to me, this looks like this may have been an older part of the bridge here. And they might tell us that the WPA built that, but I'm going to show you very soon. Here, let me actually zoom in on that a little bit. So we see that. And I'm going to show you very quickly why I don't know if the WPA built that. Because of this. Some of you might recognize this because it looks very similar to something that was in a recent John Levi video. And actually in that video, I left a link for him in the comments to this place so that he could see that this was almost identical to the one that he was showing. We are told that this is a lime kiln. I don't know if that's what it really was or not. I do know that my daughter went up on top of it and she said that she did not see any openings, which you would think that a kiln would have to have openings on the top. But again, it was overgrown. And here's the reason that I don't think that part of the bridge or any of this was built by the WPA, because as you will see, this stonework is exactly like in the bridge. And I wasn't able to find any record of renovations, and also the insides of what you would think where they would load the lime, if that's what this was. Now that does show evidence of burning though, so that's what I'm saying. It very well could have been. I don't know, but this was bricked up. We're told this was built in the 1700s and used in the 1800s. But I did actually look on the side of this, we'll call it a lime kiln for now, just to give them, the benefit of the doubt. I looked on the side of it and the side is very much like this. So I can't see them renovating the side of it and it being that overgrown. And they would have had to have renovated everything in the park that had this kind of facade. So to me, I think that many of the fake ruins aren't really fake ruins. Anyway, this here, this is not a ruin. This is moving kind of on another tangent, but it's all part of the boots on the ground investigating of his story, because we're told that rocks are all rocks. That's just what they are. Yet here, someone else would tell you this was a rock. But if you look very closely at it, you can see that this is a piece of petrified wood. And many of the things that we see as rocks are not just rocks. They are other organic material. To me, it's plain as day that this is petrified wood. Keep your eyes open. It's amazing the stuff that you can find. And this is also one of those, what they will tell us is a fake ruin at Lehigh Parkway also. Just, to me, the whole WPA thing, when it comes to making fake ruins, they're all throughout Lehigh Parkway, and I can't see. WPA was supposedly to give people jobs during the Great Depression, but to me, it wasn't a great allocation of resources if you have all these big stones and everything and you're just going to make fake ruins rather than giving them to people who need them or could use them for something that would be useful during the Great Depression. I don't know. So obviously that's not me. Now we're getting to the photos from Japan. And these photos were sent to me by Allen Manglona. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, but I thank you for these beautiful photos of, yes, Japan. And he said that these photos were all taken in either Tokyo, Ise, or Nara. And when I think of old world Japan, this isn't really what I would think of. And again, right away I always look for those street level windows. And it does go down there a bit. But he just sent a treasure trove. Look at this. Look at this beautiful architecture. Absolutely stunning. You see the copper up here? This is something, is there a face on that? Can't really tell. Yeah, it looks like some sort of animal, maybe. Right here. Huh. Here's another building. I do not know the specific names of each of these buildings. I just know, like I said, that these were all taken either in Tokyo, Ise, or Nara in Japan. But again, you see the copper and you see the Antiquitech. See now I do have to say that it does have the what we would normally call an element of the Orient in the style of the building, but much of the buildings are very similar to what you would expect to see like in Europe. Look at that. Is that a griffin and a shield? This is very popular in this style of architecture. Martin Liedtke in his videos, oh my gosh, I forget what he said that they are, but this is something that's very prominent in this style of architecture. Just have more of that. Absolutely beautiful. You see the columns, but again, we do see elements of the Orient in the roof. I think that's just another view of that one. Wow. This really does. I would expect to even see something like this, maybe even in like Philadelphia. It's just mind blowing. This is so pretty. I would love to visit Japan someday. Although I'm going to be honest with you, I'm afraid of flying, so that might never happen. I have flown already, but I don't like doing it. I think that might be a duplicate. Oh, that's just a close-up of that one that I had talked about before. Again, yeah, this is what you would typically find a lot of times in a black and white photo of like the streets of New York or the streets of Chicago from the 19th century. Copper seems to be used quite a bit. And again, copper does have a lot to do with Antiquitech. And you saw the copper used on the church in the photos that I showed you, on the schools. Even the school had the copper dome. Here we see the columns. This looks like a pyramid up here. Almost reminds me of the Parthenon up here, just like the way that this part looks, and this part up here, like a little mini one. What are those? Anybody know what kind of birds those are? What's that? Is that a, I don't know. Kind of get a dragon maybe from that. I'm not sure. More of the copper we can see. Look at these gates. Beautiful. Wow. It's amazing to think that, yeah, people built these a long time ago. And then they wonder why we question these things. People who supposedly did not have the technology in order to be able to do this, or even the equipment to be able to do this. And not only that, architecture like this is found worldwide. So many people have told me, I believe it's Brazil in South America that has so much of the same architecture. You can find it everywhere. And the thing is that we are always so, we always talk so much about how we can find pyramids all over the world, when this architecture, there's even more of it than the pyramids. And yet somehow we just seem to walk right past it and we think, oh, well, that's pretty. But we don't stop and think, wait, that looks awfully familiar. Or who built that? Or how did they do that? That's why I said in the one video that I made, we have to learn to ask how, and not just a trivial how. We have to actually ask, how logistically were these things done? Not just a Wikipedia answer, but how were they actually done? Could someone ever replicate how these things were done? I would love to watch a video on YouTube where someone could take the tools that they had in that time period that these things were built, and I would like for them to show us how they would have done this with a horse and cart, with maybe only steam machinery at the most, with a lot of times very small populations in very short times. I would love for people to tell me how. It just reminds me so much of the dome on that church. Arches too, that's also very common. The arches, the brickwork. It's just stunning. And here we have this beautiful hallway here. Beautiful. And I'm just going to finish up this video with these photos that were sent to me or were shared with me by Jared Gresham. This is Traverse City Hospital in Michigan. And what you will see right away is what looks to be like the mud flood windows, and what he actually said, and this we can find to be true in lots of pictures, is that the pictures just don't do it justice. But as we zoom in, we can see right away that we've got the street level windows, and we've got those arched windows right there. So many of these buildings all over the world have the same features. A lot of them have the dome, the copper, the Antiquitech, the arched windows, the street level windows. A lot of them will have the basement level entrances. So many things that don't seem to make any sense. And there's just another view of that. And we also see what again looks like to be street level windows. And let's not forget that these hospitals, I believe, have the tunnels beneath them. I know that the lunatic asylum does. Oops, zoomed in a little bit too much there. It seems like one or the other. I was trying to get a better look at this. It's kind of techy. You can just tell just by looking right here, all along the bottom, street level windows. This is a great shot of that. And as you can see, directly below these windows, shaped the same. Now, with the exception to this one, I'm wondering if possibly this could have been a door maybe, and maybe that accounts for the different size. I don't know. But we have the same thing right here. We have this here. This is also right underneath here, the same size. Right underneath here, same size. What is that underneath that porch? That certainly looks like it could have been a door at some point. So again, we're back to, looks to me like the first floor is underground, or at least partially underground, halfway underground. Still see them from back here. And here, this is also a great shot. Shows the uneven ground there, which, I mean, it happens. The ground is uneven sometimes. But when you have it combined with all of the other things that we're seeing, and again, also the brickwork is also big in this style of architecture. And we also see, these bricked up windows here, and the tops are bricked up, likely just because they couldn't, that may be a ventilation system, I don't know, but they probably just couldn't get it to fit there, so they just bricked that up there. But that's what we see a lot of times, though, is we will see bricked up street level windows just like that, except we're also seeing them up here as well. But again, you can see it's got the same shape at the top. And I'm guessing that the rest of it is probably below ground. More of that. So I encourage you just to look at your town, look at your city, even your neighborhood with new eyes. Because after you notice these things, you can't unsee them. You see them all the time. As we, here we have, now these definitely look like new windows. The windows were definitely replaced. But at one point, I'm going to say that it was very likely that these windows were probably the same size as these. These are all speculations. I always say that. Don't ever think that what I say is set in stone, because I certainly don't believe that. I'm just guessing. But we're just using our eyes, which is what so many of us have forgotten how to do. We're so used to people just telling us what we see, and we don't actually stop and realize what we are actually seeing. So we have the top of the windows that look very much the same. And I think it's possible that maybe they were the same size, maybe not. But here, this looks to me like it used to be a window as well. And they probably just put the door in there. Obviously, they put a door in there. But yeah, that was definitely once a window, as was, I'm assuming, they just didn't replace that window. And that's just a closer shot of that. If you're going to build a building and put windows into the basement for light, which I know some newer buildings have that, but that doesn't mean that that's what all the older buildings have done as well. Why would you put in a basement window for light only to brick it up? So really, that's all that I have for you today. I'm hoping to get back to Lehigh Parkway to finish the footage of the other video because, yeah, there's so much to see there. I have to wait though, because it's always been either way too hot or thunderstorming or downpouring. So I haven't been able to get back there, but that's what I'm planning on doing. And I encourage all of you, go out there and see what you see, take pictures and start documenting your own findings. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. If you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.